Hello, and welcome to Warhammer 40k's Grim History from the Beyond. I'm Zeckthar.
And I'm Yuksen.
We are the chroniclers of all that was and all that will be in the 41st millennium. We've seen the rise and fall of many empires. And this week, we'll be looking into the Sons of Ultramar, the Ultramarines.
That's right, Zeckthar, the Ultramarines, also lovingly known as the Smurfs. This month, we will be taking a deep dive into Varro Tiguerius, famous Ultramarines, the Primaris Project, and of course, our Q&A at the end of the month when we answer your questions.
Which, if I recall right, Yuksen, is next week, correct?
Indeed, Zeckthar. So if any of you listeners have any questions about Warhammer 40k, please leave them in the comments box.
Of course, Yuksen. But to our dear listeners, if you like our stuff, please subscribe, follow, like, and comment. And if you wish to help us out, you can click the support podcast button on any of our descriptions on Spotify.
Quite right, Zeckthar. If you like what we do, don't hesitate to support us on Spotify. We wish to keep this free and without ads, so if you find folks truly enjoy this, you can help. If you click on our support button on our Spotify channel for 99 cents a month, we can continue doing our stuff without those hated ads. Now, mind you, if you wish to do more, feel free. But this is all we ask, just 99 cents. Well, Zeckthar, let's get into it, shall we?
So this week, we've come to your favorite part of the show. Notable characters.
Awesome. Mind if I start out this week with my favorite, Marneus Calgar?
Why, not at all. Very well, brother. The stage is all yours.
Yes, here he is. Chapter Master of the Ultramarines, Lord Defender of Greater Ultramar, and the Lord of Macragge, Marneus Calgar.
Marneus Cal? You mean Marneus Calgar, right?
Of course. Now, if you travel to the heart of the Fortress of Hera, there lies a vault where records are kept of the labors performed by the greatest heroes of Ultramar. And in that vault, you will find up to 28 volumes dedicated to Marnie alone, a tally twice that of any other Ultramarine, save Varro Tiguerius himself.
Excuse me, Yuksen. Why do you keep calling him Marnie? I mean, surely this is likely to upset a few people. He is, after all, a very highly respected and authoritative figure in the galaxy, right?
Fair enough. Anyways, Cal can be most commonly noted for the following events. Number 1, the First Tyrannic War, the war where Ultramar was attacked by the Tyranid Hive Fleet Behemoth. In this war, not only did he command the forces that gave it the boot, but he also led the breaching assaults of the Hive ship designated Behemoth Primus.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Number 2, 8 years later, he led the remnants of the chapter against the demon-corrupted Forge World of Thrax to recover crucial data records. Under his leadership, they completed the mission and was able to order an exterminatus upon the unsavable planet known as Thrax. Number 3, at the Siege of Zalathras, Cal held the gates to the Hive City Zalathras by himself against a horde of orcs for a night and a day.
Now, hang on half a second. That's
Number 4, during the Battle of Auror's Sepulchre.
Yuksen!
Yes?
What? Sorry. What did he do that made him so great in this battle?
Oh, well, he soloed an avatar of Cain.
What?
The Eldar God of War.
That's actually pretty cool. How did he do that?
Well, you see, Zeckthar, heavy weapons fire seemed only to anger the avatar, and the Ultramarines battling buckled beneath this destructive onslaught. So Cal issued a challenge himself. The fiery god bellowed with fury, its first blow missing the Ultramarines' chapter master by a hair. The second tore plates from his armor. The third bit deep into his shoulder, driving the chapter master to one knee. But the fourth Cal caught with the palm of his hand, holding onto the sword, and grabbed it with all his strength. The gauntlets of Ultramar, great relics of the chapter, buckled and warped, yet held for a brief moment. In that moment, the avatar was helpless, and Cal drove his other fist into its molten form. With a deafening roar, the Avatar exploded, leaving Cal exhausted on the ground. The Marines of the Ultramarines chapter swarmed to surround their chapter master, yet no further attack came from the Eldari.
Wow, it's pretty cool. What happened after
Number
that?
5, at Ikar Ford, he commanded the forces that defeated the encroaching Hive Fleet Kraken.
We're gonna get
And number 6, he has constantly fought and defeated forces led by Makar the Thriceborn.
Oh, I know that guy who he imprisoned, but we will get to him later. I'm guessing you're going to number 7 now?
Number 7. Then, of course, his actions during the Ultramar campaign and the resurrection of Gilliman.
I know. We talked about that last week.
That's right. But unfortunately, brother, there are many more notables, but I feel going further than this, we won't be able to talk about the other notable characters. Suffice to say, he is truly honorable, intelligent, and regarded by many as the epitome of mankind's will to endure and triumph. Well, what is your opinion on this noble warrior, brother?
He's cool? I honestly don't know because we went over everything so fast. Yuksen, we're going to get letters. It's going to be bad. But from the stuff that you have told me, I do actually have a question real quick, if you don't mind. Okay, so the Avatar of Cain, the guy that he soloed and beat the crap out of with his fists.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm probably thinking of something different here, but when I think of an Avatar of the Eldar, I'm thinking of the thing that's about the size of a Titan. This isn't the same thing,
they're
right?
Slightly smaller than that, but yeah.
Okay, so he literally, anyways, the thing tried to stomp him out with a sword, and he got close enough that he could actually put his fist on it.
Yeah.
It's Titan size.
Well, it's not quite Titan size.
Oh, okay. So it's more like
it's like 2 or 3 times the height of Space Marine.
Okay, so it's more like a knight size.
Yeah.
For the Imperium. Okay, gotcha. Okay, that seems a little bit more doable. I was just thinking, anyways, of this like giant Titan size thing, anyways, with the sword, and he caught the hand. That doesn't make any sense.
At that point, he'd be punching like his shin.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yes, that Achilles heel right there.
Yeah, he swiveled around the backside and went right in the Achilles heel. It went, and then it died. But just out of curiosity, is there any of these other? I mean, you went through like what, 7 of them, right?
Right.
So, to you personally, Yuksen, which is the one that really sticks out the most? Now, mind you, anyways, I mean, thank you for only going through 7 because it seems like he's got like 28 volumes dedicated to him. And he hasn't been around that long, right?
I don't know. He's been around for a while. It's not like he's been around for a really long time. Like,
yeah. I mean, he's not like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or even Grimnar. Not like
he probably hasn't been around as long as Grimnar either.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, he's been around for a good, decent amount of time. So what sticks out to you? What's your favorite?
Probably the one with the Avatar sticks out the most to me.
Really? I figured it would have been anyways the siege of Zalthras?
Zalthras?
I figured it would have been the siege of Zalthras. I mean, he literally holds the gates.
Well, let's face it.
By himself.
Every single notable character that we come across that has any sort of interaction with orcs is like, yes, they slaughtered thousands of them by themselves.
Which I always find interesting because, I mean, the orcs are very, they're a tough breed. But it's not like, anyways, like they held against like thousands of Necrons or Tyranids. Tyranids would make more sense to me, anyways, comparable, right, to orcs at that point. But I don't know. I just always figured, anyways, you would have gotten more on that line. I do think it's kind of interesting, though, that we don't really go into it very much, actually, in this Vox, but the Tyranid Hive Fleet Behemoth. We don't go into it very much here, anyways, but it's actually very important to the realm of Ultramar's history, isn't it?
It's one of the big ones, and it helps set up their success in the future when it comes to Hive Fleet Kraken.
Kraken or Leviathan?
Well,
there's a few of them out
there.
Which one?
Technically both of them, but
okay. But yeah, and like I said, it's very well documented, and if you guys take anything from this other than anyways what we talk about, if you want to go do some research, that is actually one that is actually very important to the Imperium. It also makes it in any ways a concept anyways of why the Tyranid are such a problem for the Imperium. I would even say anyways, they're on the same level. Maybe you agree with me on this with Yuksen, but on the same level as, like, for instance, Chaos at this point.
I can agree with that.
Okay. Well, this guy is very interesting. There's another interesting note anyways that I think we do have to take mention of. And that is he was part of this whole process anyways of the Primaris aspect that Belisarius Call did. And I can't it was called what? The Rubicon?
Yeah, there was a process that was invented called the Rubicon Primaris, and it was a process to implant with firstborns with the organs that the Primaris Space Marines had, that the firstborns didn't, those 3 extra ones.
Right. So it was a concept anyways of taking an actual Space Marine that is still up and functioning anyways, and then giving them the extra 3 gene seeds.
Right.
And if I recall right anyways, Marneus Calgar was the first guy that actually went through this process.
Yeah, that would be correct.
Which shows actually quite the courage, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's also he felt it was more of a duty because of the fact that until he stepped up, there's constant conflict around, well, should we even attempt to do this? I mean, we're messing with, the emperors and the process that it's supposed to go through and this and yada yada, and it endangers the Space Marines. Why on earth the High Lords of Terror would care about that, I don't know.
Well, I think it also helped anyways that Rabute anyways turned around and told him, do it. He said,
no,
okay.
Actually, it was originally the original reason why it started progressing forwards was because Cal stepped forward and said, okay, I'm going to try doing this, because there's a lot of
hubbub
push against it.
Yeah. And we might anyways next week anyways go a little bit more into the Rubicon Primaris, because it is actually kind of an interesting chapter anyways in the Imperium, but we unfortunately have to move on.
Yes.
And
let's talk about somebody else that we said we were going to talk about last week during the Ultramar campaign video.
Yes. And if you can guess who that is anyways, you get a gold star.
Or wait 5 seconds.
Or just wait 5 seconds. Yes. Though the Ultramarines are warriors, their chapter is typified by a warm, generous personality.
By who?
From this one particular scroll done by Wikitonius Exemar. Honestly, brother, I definitely agree with you. I've never seen warm and generous as a synonym for an Ultramarine. But afterwards, he does write something that I do agree with.
And what would that be?
Well, he goes on to say that the Ultramarines have a noble demeanor and regal countenance, fierce when roused to anger, but considered urbane and just towards those who are their allies.
That makes more sense.
I agree. Perhaps when he wrote the first part, he was thinking about the salamanders?
Only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Well, to carry on. Among their ranks, however, one stands out as a man alone, an Ultramarine to whom the ready camaraderie of being brothers in arms comes difficult, if at all. He is soul burdened by the weight of his calling, afflicted by a power that sets him apart from those around him. He's the mightiest psyker in the Ultramarines chapter, if not the entire Imperium.
Crane hates other fathers.
And his name is Varro Tiguerius. Varro is a common enough name within the Ultima Segmentum, and many of the heroes of the Ultramarines chapter have borne it over the millennia. Yet the parents of young Varro Tiguerius could never have known the destiny of their quite respectful son, or that one day he would rise to become one of the most famous warriors in the galaxy. As they submitted their son to the marshals of induction, those ominous guardians who conveyed aspirants to the fortress of Hera, they bid tearful farewell to a stoic but withdrawn child whose awkwardness belayed an inviolable physical ability and fearsome intellect. To the trained eye of the chapter librarians who screened each and every aspirant, Varro Tiguerius was obviously a psyker of rare potential, and so they kept a watchful eye as he flourished in each and every task set to him. Of particular interest to the chaplains who oversaw the inductees, even at an early stage, was how Tiguerius seemed prepared for the challenges set out, no matter how unusual. Postulary Zephus surmised at the time that Tiguerius was in some way cheating the drill sergeants and chaplains. Forewarned of the librarian's suspicions, the supervising chaplain, one Orton Cassius, then merely a junior chaplain under the great Phalion, tasked the aspirants with an unwinnable assignment as the dozens of other hopefuls struggled to load bolter rounds into weapons that had been prepared with stripped chambers and breeches miled fractionally too small. Tiguerius calmly watched, weighing his choices. Eventually, he strode calmly to the waiting Cassius and, without fear in his eyes, looked upon the skull helm of the chaplain and quietly told him that the challenge was impossible. Cassius, for his part, seemed incensed. He bellowed at the recruit before him. His skull-faced battle helm augmented the volume of his wrath till it reverberated off the walls of the Agog with a deafening force. In the face of such incandescent fury, almost any mortal would have quailed or fled. Not so Tiguerius, who, prompted by the visions he had dreamed as he slept the night before, knew just how to react. He simply knelt before the chaplain until the apparent anger subsided. Then, with a booming laugh, the chaplain raised the aspirant to his feet. "You will do," he muttered, before striding from the room. Of course, in this, as in many other matters, the young Tiguerius proved unnaturally perceptive. Over time, the battle brothers of the chapter librarians ascertained the nature of Tiguerius's rare talent. In addition to a prodigious psychic potential, they learned that Tiguerius possessed the ability to foresee future events. This gift was exceptionally rare among psychers of the Imperium and completely unprecedented within the ranks of the Ultramarines. And yet, Tiguerius was able to predict many future events, sometimes with such clarity that it was as if he was already there to witness it. The remainder of Tiguerius's training served only to prove his natural abilities to the chapter. He fought with the skill of a natural warrior, and his physical endurance was exceptional. On completion of his assessment, the librarians welcomed the young Tiguerius with open arms. Though in the early years of his service in the chapter, Tiguerius's ability roused a terrible suspicion among his battle brothers, even for a librarian. Yet over time, the skepticism he accrued subsided, for the worth of his abilities was clear for all to see. When deployed to a war zone, Tiguerius was able to provide a tactical insight to the captains and sergeants who laid out the strategies for their warriors. In the Altor Crusade, Tiguerius forewarned the scouts of the 10th Company of a successive series of ambushes planned by Eldar pathfinders. His warnings, initially heeded with a degree of skepticism, doubtlessly saved dozens of lives. Now, rather than leading their recruits into deadly traps, the sergeants instead called in fire support from the chapter's storm talons, which dully turned the awaiting Eldar snipers into grisly corpses with their assault cannon fire. He also warned Captain Agamon to arrive several hours early for the armistice talks with the Eldar Autarch. When the Eldar general arrived with his entourage, he found the jungle foliage that he concealed squads of waiting striking scorpions burned to stubble by Agamon's Land Raider Redeemer, the Infernal Retribution, and the captain waiting with his relic blade drawn. Now, later, serving the 5th Company, Tiguerius led a strike force against the 7 sorcerers of Harka, a coven of Chaos Space Marines who held an entire planet in their thrall. Although Tiguerius's visions did not reveal to Tiguerius the nature of his foes, he prepared carefully, working with the chapter's artificers to modify his psychic hood ahead of the mission. At first, the assault of Harka went well. with the Space Marines storming the Seven's stronghold and fighting their way down the crowded streets. Fighting with typical Ultramarines finesse, the tactical squads fought through the hundreds of treacherous humans who had thrown in their lot with the Seven. Faithless renegades and degenerate mutants died by the hundreds as Tigerius and his Space Marines stalked through the ruins of Harka, searching for their foe. Thinking to thwart the Ultramarines, the Seven Sorcerers attacked them as they were embroiled, slaughtering a horde of wretched scum, armed only with flintlocks and improvised clubs. By contrast to their decrepit minions, the Seven were veritable gods of war, clad in glossy black power armor and surrounded by crackling nimbuses of warp energy. They stalked upon the Ultramarines, unleashing a bow wave of power that blasted hundreds of the traitors and dozens of Space Marines from their feet. Only Tigerius felt the shifting power of the warp at work as the Seven channeled their sorcery. Warily, he turned to face this new foe, raising his force staff as bodies, friends and foes, around him began to explode from within like fleshy grenades. Here a Chaos Worshipper traitor blasted apart in a welter of grizzle and blood. There a mutant burst into a gory mist as if shot out of a cannon. Battle Brother Sides died before he even perceived his attackers, segments of his armor clattering around as his body erupted. The Seven pointed his one indiscriminate movement, and with every gesture there was another grim victim. Tigerius halted their advance with a wall of balefire that seared out from his force staff, a blazing conflagration that scorched a path through the prone bodies of their mortal followers to embroil them in flames. As the librarian fought a psychic duel, the Sergeant Orestes and a handful of tactical Marines scrambled to their feet to protect him, holding back the fanatical throng. One Space Marine librarian against 7 Chaos Sorcerers were slim odds, and yet Tigerius did not quail. Screaming in rage, he poured more of his soul into his attack. The flames danced around his foes, lapping at the energy that glowed around the Chaos Space Marines. Tigerius' face contorted with pain, and the flames blazed white hot. The psychic hood upon his shoulders radiated with the power coursing through it, and Tigerius' eyes ran bloodshot as the rockcrete roadway began to bubble and melt. As the Seven writhed within the flames, Tigerius' shout of rage became a hoarse shriek, and the Seven were burned to death, one by one, slowly at first, and then faster and faster as their power died, the smoldering armored bodies of the Seven clattering to fall upon the ground and sink into the boiling road. In the wake of the incident of Harka, word of Tigerius' power began to spread. His bespoke psychic hood was dubbed by those who had witnessed him vanquish the Seven
as the Hood of Hellfire.
Orestes, who had fought beside Tigerius, had seen his courage firsthand and became a friend and confidant of the librarian, a friendship that served both well for many years. With such glories behind him, Tigerius' ascension to higher ranks was only a matter of time. He quickly left behind the rank of Lexicanium and excelled as a codicer, providing a depth of insight into the campaign overviews submitted by the great libraries within the fortress of Hera. Such was Tigerius' natural power, however, that his tenure at the rank was short, and he was swiftly promoted to the apostolary, where he coordinated company-sized operations, using his immense psychic prowess to guide the captains and sergeants into system-wide campaigns. The late Captain Invictus described Tigerius in the wake of a bloody slaughter known as the Rarth Cleansing as the greatest administrator of Minotaurium he had ever known. Since his elevation, though, to the rank of Chief Librarian, Tigerius has been indispensable aid at the side of the Chapter Master. Increasingly with his office, the solemn Varro Tiguerius finds his duty and his gifts a burden that weighs heavy on his soul. He gave the order that sacrificed his best friend, Sergeant Orestes, to save a dozen other battle brothers and millions of innocents in the Hallowed Star's cleansing. He has witnessed the Legion of the Damned in battle and beheld the ethereal horror of their war-making. His report, one of the most accurate depictions of the Legion of the Damned in the Imperial Archives, next to that of Chapter Master Zacharias Kirsch of the Excoriators chapter, reported how these macabre, undead space marines appear seemingly at random when all seems lost, rout the enemy with incredible displays of martial valor, and ultimately vanish again without leaving a trace. Since that encounter, Tigerius has attempted to divine who or what these strange warriors were, but without success. Increasingly, he finds himself drawn from the library of Ptolemy and contemplating the truths within its million manuscripts to the Temple of Correction, where he gazes for solar hours upon the shrine of the Primarch. Though such an act seems solemn, it appears to invigorate the chief librarian, for when he returns from his meditation, he is revitalized, as if a bright hope for the future has been rekindled in his heart. So fortified, Tigerius remains one of the greatest weapons in the arsenal of the Ultramarines chapter. Far more than just a battle psyker in the ranks of the warriors, but a watchman who guides his brothers when he can perceive the right path for them and fights at their side when he cannot. Well, Yuksen, what do you make of this interesting librarian?
Well, one of the things I have to wonder is who screwed up for the Legion of the Damned to show up. But
that's a good point. They really only do show up anyways, like when
they things are most dire, generally because somebody screwed up, and so there's like, oh crap, we're about to get overrun by something and we're dead.
Okay, they show up a little bit more often though than the Saint, right? Saint Celestine, a little bit more, but kind of the same concept, right?
It's like a little bit more, but how many? 2 times.
Well, I'm just saying, anyways, is that they kind of have this same knack of timing as the Saint does, right? Just like everything is lost, bing. But what do you think about Tigerius, though?
I think that there is plenty of reason why I can see that Chapter Master Cal puts a lot of weight on what his opinion is.
Well, especially going into like for instance last week's anyways, when it had to do with the Ultramar campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody else anyway said just get rid of these guys, and then Tigerius goes, no. We need to listen to him. Which kind of is interesting. And also, by the way, if anybody listened to last week's Vox about the Ultramar campaign anyways, Agamon is in both of these. Just I wonder anyways what Agamon's thought process is anyways when he thinks of Tigerius. Just simply because he actually kind of watched him go through the ranks. And I'm sure anyways probably Marnie did too, but I think at a farther distance, Agamon actually had personal, contact with him anyways as he was actually going through the ranks. Which to me anyways, I kind of find it interesting. Well, what about you?
I'm not sure how much contact Agamon actually had with Tigerius as he was being brought along, because I'm not extremely well versed when it comes to how librarians are trained and what sort of process they go through when they go through their training and what have you.
Right. I mean, okay, as far as I know anyways, the librarian doesn't really matter in what chapter anyways. They're kind of somewhat secluded, aren't they?
Yeah, kind of. So it'd be kind of like, okay, yeah, he showed up here, but then that's why shortly thereafter he ends up all of a sudden being with the 5th company or something like that.
I'm just thinking anyways, Agamon anyways, what I mean by he watched him kind of grow anyways, it would be kind of one of those, just kind of like, especially because he saw him anyways early in his career, Tigerius, when he pops back up anyways with these, with the 7 anyways, and Agamon anyways hears about that. He's like, hey, I know that guy. He helped me out early. Yeah, he helped me out about 20 years ago. Yeah, good guy, or whatever he thought of him. I just think it's interesting because I think anyways, whenever he keeps popping up anyways, Agamon saw him anyways when he was just like a sproutling. So watching him kind of grow, but like from a field, I think would be kind of interesting. It would be like, okay, on a Terran 42 concept anyways, of somebody anyways in the news for Chicago who writes the newspaper, right?
Okay.
And many years ago anyways, he he was assigned this paper anyways, and he was supposed to write about this particular jury thing anyways that had to do, and the lawyer anyways for the defendant, his name happened to be Barack Obama. And then and well, no, bear with me anyways. And then so he keeps doing his own thing, right? And he's just writing about different things. And then the next thing he sees anyways is that this guy's a senator. He's like, how about that? I remember him anyways. He was just a wee sproutling, kind of thing. And then all of a sudden anyways, it gets all the way up to, he's like, holy crap, he's the president. This same guy? That guy? I'm just saying anyways, to me anyways, it's kind of interesting anyways, looking at, if you're living through history anyways, and you happen to see somebody growing in history, is kind of an interesting concept.
Okay.
Okay. Well, fair enough. But we do have to press on anyway. So who do you like to talk about next?
So next I'd like to talk about Cato Sicarius, who is the former captain of Ultramarines' 2nd Company. And he's currently commander of the Victress Honor Guard.
Excuse me, Yuksen, but that's Gilman's Honor Guard, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
just fancy your name.
Right. It is actually a much better name than Gilman's Honor Guard. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
His titles include Master of the Watch, Knight Champion of Macragge, Grand Duke of Telesar, and High Suzerain of Ultramar. Now, Sicarius was born and raised in the ducal household of Telesar, one of the most prominent of Ultramar's noble dynasties. Even before he could walk and talk, Sicarius was being guided towards the martial arts. By the time of his 4th standard birthday, he could wrestle, sword fight, and shoot to the satisfaction of his masters. As he grew, his schooling in matters of warfare intensified. The training masters in the Telesariagog pressed the young noble hard, sensing his gift and the glorious future that it offered for their household were to be honed sufficiently. At 10 years old, he could outfight youths twice his age with consummate ease, and he was developing strength and stamina to match his skills. The House of Aunts sought to marshal his intellect equally to his physique, teaching him history, poetry, and laws of the Imperium. For all the academia that was poured into his young mind, however, it was always the thought of battle, the thrill of competition, and a yearning for victory that drove him onwards. His tutelage in the ways of war was only reinforced by his later induction and training amongst the Ultramarines. When he was recruited into the Ultramarines, Sicarius earned commendation after commendation and rose swiftly through the chapter's ranks. In solar decades that followed, he served as sergeant and then 2nd Company champion before ultimately assuming the command of the 2nd Company himself. Several centuries later, Sicarius was the Master of the Watch, captain of the Ultramarine 2nd Company, and, by rank, the 3rd most influential man within the chapter. The authority of the 2nd Captain was only eclipsed by Captain Severus Agamon of the 1st, and their liege, Chapter Master Cal. As Master of the Watch, Sicarius was tasked with the defense of Ultramar, overseeing a staff of thousands of planetary defense force commanders and generals on both his homeworld and surrounding systems in the Ultima Segmentum. Without a doubt, Sicarius has found the responsibility of ensuring Ultramarines' safety especially difficult in the wake of the Behemoth invasion, for the tyrannic threat continues to increase, as do the predations of the Tau on the eastern fringe, the Orcs in what remains of the Arc-Arsonist Empire, and the recent and recurring engagements with the Necrons. While many of the duties that fall to Sicarius by dint of his office as captain of the 2nd involve officiating, planning, and a large degree of bureaucracy, there is no doubt that the role to which he is best suited is that of Knight Champion of Macragge. Twice in his career, Sicarius has served as company champion, first to the Captain Ideus of the 4th and later to Captain Invictus of the 1st Company. It is a mark of how great a warrior and protector Sicarius is Then both those tenures, neither captain came to any serious injury. Some within the chapter whispers that Sicarius's apparent venom towards Captain Ventress of the 4th Company during his trial following the Tarsus Ultra debacle was due to the suzerain's fondness of the late Captain Idaeus, beside whom he had fought during his own time in the 4th Company. As Knight Champion, Sicarius must answer challenges addressed to the chapter as a whole, and he has done so with startling and bloody results on many occasions. When Inquisitor Orcades denounced the precognitive abilities of Chief Librarian Varro Tiguerius as evidence of forbidden pacts with dark powers of the warp, the accusation was met by the chapter with the derision it deserved. However, Orcades pressed the issue, demanding an audience with the chapter master. The trial took place in the Temple of Corrections, with more than 100 Space Marines staying watch, as Orcades spat forth his anti-Psyker rhetoric, scorning the good name of Tigerius and the honor of the chapter that shielded him. The Ultramarines listened. To his credit, the Inquisitor was undaunted when Cal's voice cut through his tirade like a peal of thunder, and only blanched slightly when Captain Sicarius, clad fully for war, descended from the left hand of his master to issue a challenge under the laws of trial by combat. For his part, Orcades had a champion of his own, and from within his personal army of acolytes, confessors, sycophants, and soldiers emerged a hunched and hooded figure. Sicarius pointed with his sword, the legendary Talisarian Tempest Blade, and ordered his opponent to show himself. Slowly, the robes dropped to the ground to reveal a battle-class chrono gladiator, which raised itself to full height on Skitarii-grade servo limbs. Roughly simian in shape, the Chrono Gladiator was the height of a Space Marine in Terminator armor and covered in strength-enhancing servo bundles and interlocking plates of armored carapace. Safe to say, Cato beat this souped-up gladiator, which resulted in the Inquisitor calling Tigerius as warp-tainted and corrupt, and Sicarius as a whoreson and a lackey. Then the Inquisitor was to lose his hand as he tried to draw his pistol on Cato. You could hear the cries for justice and vengeance from the Inquisitor as his retinue carried him off. Skipping forward after the resurrection of Guilliman, Rabute selected Cato to be commander of his honor guard. This is where he currently remains.
Okay, I got a couple questions for you. First off, I want to make sure about this anyways. This Inquisitor lost his hand, right?
Right.
Because he was stupid enough anyways to try to draw a pistol on Cato.
Right.
Okay. So, originally, anyways, as you're telling this part of the story, I was thinking anyways that this Inquisitor had probably the largest stones known to man to be sitting anyways in the presence of the Ultramarines, as they're all sitting around listening to him anyways. They've all got, their arms folded, and they're just kind of sitting there looking at him, and they're like, okay, go ahead and tell us. Tell us why, anyways, our librarian, anyways, is a piece of crap. Go for it. And yet, he still continued to do it anyways, and eventually he gets into this whole combat anyways. Well, he doesn't, but, his champion does. And then to top it all off anyways, he actually, after he does the whole, your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries, literally pulls a gun on Cato and then loses a hand. No, this isn't stones, in my opinion. This is just
short of full clip.
Yeah, this is just insanity at this point. You, sir, should not have any command whatsoever. Much better,
He's
anyways.
Right there with Greyfax, because Greyfax, no doubt, also has that.
Greyfax, though, okay, there is this huge difference, though, here, anyways, is that Greyfax, we have mentioned, anyways, especially in our last box. She does admit at that point, at some point, anyways, she realized that she was wrong about the Saint, right? And she even admits it.
For that moment, anyways.
Yeah. This guy doesn't. He's just like, I'm still right. It's like, No, you're not. Honestly, it would have been much better anyways if Cato had just, instead of taking his hand, just took his head. It would have been better, so much better for the Imperium.
Except for the backlash that would come from, this guy executed the Inquisitor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In front of how many of his minions?
At the same time, anyways, Chapter Master Marneus Calgar, anyways, could send a Vox, anyways, to the Inquisition saying, sorry, he pulled a... this was all legal. He pulled a gun, anyways, on my champion, and my champion killed him. I mean, I think, anyways, with the words, anyways, of the Chapter Master of the Ultramarines, anyways, would have some sway. I would like to think, anyways, within the Inquisition.
What's his name? It's Orcadius. Oh, fine.
What's his name? Oh, yeah, that loony bin. Thank you for getting rid of him. We can send you some stuff if you want.
You saved us a little effort since we were about to send somebody to do it. So thanks.
He saved us a boatload of paperwork. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, other than that, though, I mean, honestly, this guy seems like, the way you described him, he's kind of like the perfect warrior, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's quick. He's intelligent. He's kind of, bar my Terran 42 comment here anyways, but he's the Arnold Schwarzenegger of Ultramarines, right?
Not necessarily the best comparison, but...
maybe Sly Stallone? Or Terry Crews. No, he's not as... It doesn't sound like he's as funny as Terry. But he's the big beefcake that defends the Imperium within the Ultramarines. He's Arnie. What's that?
And intelligent.
That's why you had a problem with that. Well, Arnie's pretty intelligent from what I remember anyways on Terran 42. Wasn't he a governor? Oh, anyways, regardless, we're talking about we're talking about this.
We're not getting into Terran 42 politics here.
No, we are not. But I do think, anyways, as interesting as this Marine is, I figure we should talk about the guy you mentioned he doesn't really like very much. Captain Uriel Ventress, who is actually pretty well acclaimed, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Why don't you tell us about him?
Okay, yeah. Uriel Ventress is the young captain of the 4th Company of the Ultramarines chapter. He was born in the subterranean city of the imperial civilized world of Kolth in the realm of Ultramar and chose to become the Ultramarines aspirant when he came of age to participate in the chapter's trials. He succeeded in his quest and became an Ultramarines neophyte, and then earned his way into the ranks of the Ultramarines officer corps through his bravery and devotion to the ideals of the Ultramarines Primarch, Varro Tiguerius. However, some of his battle brothers, like Sergeant Lurchus, questioned Uriel's commitment to the Codex Astartes because his friend, mentor, and predecessor Captain Idaeus, though a hero of the chapter, was known to break the Codex teachings from time to time. Well, okay, that's an understatement. He did it quite often. But Ventress went on to become a hero of the chapter himself, playing a role in most of the major conflicts to consume the Ultramarines in the final years of the 41st millennium, including a leading part during the invasion of Ultramar in 999.M41 by the Demon Prince Makar, the Reborn, and Warsmith Hunzel, and their army of Iron Warrior Heretic Astartes, and other Chaos Space Marine warbands called the Bloodborne. Now, he has accomplished many feats in his short career, but I think, Yuksen, we should discuss his role in his defense against the Bloodborne.
Why?
Well, we briefly discussed the Bloodborne last week.
The Ultramar campaign. Check it out.
Yes. So I figured we could go into a little bit more detail this week on what all took place there.
Good thinking. Very well. Carry on.
Well, while Uriel was off fighting the Tau.
He fought the Tau? I didn't think we have really covered anybody who fought the Tau.
Well, fighting is a relative term.
Meaning?
Meaning he showed up with the 4th chapter and said,
Leave or I'll kill you.
And the Tau said, fair enough, and left.
Ah,
But while this was all taking place, the warsmith Hanzo was consumed by hate for Ventress and the Ultramarines following the events on Medregard and the destruction of his Chaos Space Marine incubation experiments. He hatched a plan. You see what I did there? Incubation and hatched? Anyways. To annihilate the Ultramarines, and especially Uriel Ventress. As bait, he used a virus stolen from the stocks of the Adeptus Mechanicus to turn Tarsus Ultra, the world the Ultramarines had vowed to protect, into a dead world. He had assembled a large invasion force, which apart from the Iron Warriors warband, included Chaos Cultists, Traitor Marines, Traitor Guardsmen, Dark Eldar Pirates, Kroot, the Kroot. Yuksen, did I mention the Kroot?
yes.
And other aliens and human mercenaries, a dark mechanicum force led by the traitor Marneus Calgar, and a multitude of criminals, psychopaths, and killers. And Phil.
Who's Phil?
Well, Phil is the perpetual sandwich maker of the Emperor himself. He's been around for years. He just seems to pop up wherever anyways, and he deals sandwiches to whoever is there. Now, mind you, this is actually the first time recorded where Phil actually is giving sandwiches out to Chaos. But they apparently seemed to like him, so they kept him along with him in the warband. But regardless, Hanzo managed to find...
Good, huh?
Yeah, they actually are that good. I've actually tried one of them. They're pretty good. They're definitely worth the Emperor's grace. But anyways, Hanzo managed to find and board a star fort hidden for a previous 60 Terran years in the depths of the uncharted space in the Ultramar subsector, guarded by the Ultramarines contingent. He slaughtered the star fort's Ultramarine garrison and then freed the powerful demon prince Makar, secretly held captive within the fort. The demon, who had once been the word-bearer's dark apostle named Moloch Cartho, who had originally attacked Ultramar during the Horus Heresy, had been imprisoned by our good friend that you talked about, Yuksen, Marneus Calgar, with the help of the Inquisition. Makar hated the Ultramarines chapter and the Imperium man with a passion, making him the perfect ally on this venture. Aligning with warsmith Hanzo, the Demon Prince possessed a desecrated Ultramarine dreadnought shell so that he could interact with the material universe, turning the Star Fort into a chaos abomination linked directly to the warp, and called forth a huge demon army to join in, attacking the worlds of the realm of Ultramar in the early 999.M41, unleashing the campaign known as
The Invasion of Ultramar.
Hanzo had managed to acquire a clone of Uriel Ventress, known as the Newborn, who had been created from the genetic material left behind while Uriel was in the womb of the demon Kulaba on Medregard.
Medrengard.
Thank you. The Newborn was a psychic, as well as a physical clone of Uriel. As such, he had fragments of Uriel's knowledge and memories, including the defense protocols of Ultramar, which Hanzo first used to attack the Star Fort, and then the entire realm of Ultramar. The whole chapter rose in defense of the realm, aided by the Adeptus Mechanicus contingent under Magos Locard, the warband of the system-based Ordo Malleus Inquisitor, Suzaku, a squad of Raven Guard Space Marines, the mobilized Ultramarine Planetary Defense Force regiments, and many civilians. The war expanded to encompass several Ultramarine worlds, at least one of which was destroyed. Uriel confronted the Newborn and Hanzo on Kalth, his planet of birth. Hanzo had gone there at the request of Makar, to the tomb of Ventenus,
An ancient Ultramarine hero of the Fourth Company dating back to the Horus Heresy known as the Savior of Kalth.
correct you, to destroy Ventenus's sarcophagus and his war gear. Uriel killed the Newborn using the blade that he had recovered from Ventenus's ancient war gear in the tomb. And then, in the battle that followed, Hanzo's more numerous forces were defeated thanks to the sudden appearance of spectral guardian warriors. Hanzo, faced with capture or defeat, detonated the explosives the Iron Warriors had previously placed around the tomb, collapsing the grand edifice of the tomb on top of himself and his opponents. Uriel and some of his fellow warriors survived and headed to Talasar, an Ultramarine world where Makar and his demon army were close to overrunning Chapter Master Cal and his dwindling forces. Uriel and his friendly reinforcements arrived in the midst of the final climactic battle for the world. Ventress tossed the powerful anti-demonic blade of Ventanus to Cal as the chapter master was dueling with Makar, and Marnie used it to completely annihilate the demon prince. With the demon army and Hanzo's forces defeated in all the theaters of war, the Imperial forces proceeded to engage in mop-up operations, and within 6 solar months, the realm of Ultramar was declared free of the touch of chaos. Ominously, though, while the ruins of the tomb of Ventanus were searched thoroughly, the body of warsmith Hanzo was never recovered.
That's an interesting story, but here's what I think of the captain. From the way that it's put, you know, everybody, all of these characters are stuffed in during this one invasion, which makes sense as it's an invasion of Ultramar.
Right.
But he gets captured. He had to have gone captured at some point.
Yeah, no, he did. It's actually a pretty dark part of his history. That's one of the reasons why.
And then he escapes, and nobody thought maybe we should go back and destroy the shell.
Well, it was actually on a demon world.
Okay.
Demon worlds are hard to get to. I mean, as far as I know, anyways, there's this guy and then one other guy that I know of, anyways, that went to a demon world and came back and survived, and that was Ragnar Blackmane. I can't think of any others though. Can you?
Actually, others, but
I'm sure there are others. Those are the only guys I can really think of, though.
Probably a lot of Grey Knights, but
Of course, the Grey Knights. It's for the Grey Knights. It's kind of like everybody else, anyways. Like, if you go to a demon world, you'll die, and the Grey Knights are like, that's part of our initiation.
Yeah.
Or the Legion of the Damned. They probably been there a time or two too.
That's why you see what you didn't see is if they kept walking on that planet, they would see a Grey Knight flag there.
All tattered.
We marked this place as a place that we landed on.
And as they're escaping, it's like, why is it still there? It's like, well, because the Chaos guys won't even go near it. Because every time they go near it, anyways, this dude shows up, anyways, murders a bunch of people, and then he disappears again. So they just left it alone. They leave it alone? The Grey Knights leave it alone. That's the way it works. But he's interesting to me, anyways, because as opposed to most, like take your guy, anyways, Cato, right?
Right.
He is the quintessential Ultramarine. He follows the Codex Astartes. He is just like straight up, this is what we do. And this guy, on the other hand, anyways, goes, yeah, well, I mean, they're good guidelines, but sometimes, anyways, you have to kind of go around that. By the way, I mean, that sounds like really, okay, yeah, so who cares? The Ultramarines care. Those are the guys that care.
I mean, they're the guys that came up with the rules.
It's like, our guy came up with the rules. We have to follow them. The space book says it's bad. We can't do that. But it works. I don't care. The space book says it's bad. Which as I mentioned earlier, anyways, it kind of gets him into trouble occasionally. But you got anything else about this guy?
Not really. But I forgot to ask this before, but whatever happened to Phil?
Phil? Oh, Phil, the sandwich maker.
Yes.
Well, after his whole ordeal, anyways, having to deal sandwiches out, anyways, the Chaos Marines and demons, he had to give sandwiches to demons. And apparently they liked them. So they kept him on anyways. And he got
That one has an extra special sauce of chaos and warp, right?
Oh, it was definitely red hot sauce. Anyways, he eventually, anyways, he was part of that grand invasion, anyways, by Hanzo, and he got stuck there as everybody else left, and all the Ultramarines showed up, anyways, and there's this one dude left over, anyways, and he's got his little cart, and he kind of looks up at him and goes, "A sandwich?" And one of the Ultramarines tried it. They said, "You know what? We're taking you back to McCrog." So, ironically,
first, you need to take a bath, though. And we need to scrub off all this stench.
We got to scrub off the chaos. Yes. Then we're going to take you back to McCrog. And then he gave his samples anyways to Marnie, and Marnie enjoyed it. And so he kind of stuck around there. Ironically, here's the interesting part of history. Ironically, Phil, the sandwich maker, was the first person to ever give any food to the reborn Primarch Rabute Gilliman. And he said it was the best sandwich he had had in 5,000 years. In which case, Phil, anyways, thought he was so great. It was slightly a joke because, as you know, anyways, Rabute Gilliman, anyways, had been, slightly dead, anyways, for the last 10,000 years. So, anyways, yes. So since then, anyways, Phil has continued to follow Rabute around wherever he goes and feed him and his people sandwiches.
Or anybody, pretty much, right?
Oh yeah, anybody that comes up to him at this point. I mean, Phil is a very generous individual. I mean, especially at this point, because
Sorry, I just had this image of all of a sudden there's like this demon that randomly pops up. He's like, "I'd like a sandwich." It's like, "Okay, hold on, let me get the special sauce." Yeah. And then the Dark Eldar comes up, the Drukari comes up and is like, "Hey, I'd like a sandwich." "Okay, I got a sauce for you too."
he's like with the demon, and he was like, "Okay, hang on, let me get the red hot." This is going over salami. What kind of cheese you want? Oh, you want the sharp cheddar? Yeah, you want the sharp cheddar. Kind of thing. And grill it
with the jalapenos in it. I mean,
with the jalapenos. Hands it to him, anyways. The Dark Eldar shows up. Dark Eldar shows up and he goes, "Okay, we've got the stone mustard here for you, and this one, anyways, we're gonna put over turkey and pastrami, and then we're gonna add, anyways, our cheese, anyways, is gonna be Swiss
shredded.
No, Swiss because there's holes in it.
Yeah.
We're gonna pack this down, anyways, on white bread." And Dark Elgar goes, "What?" And he goes, "No, I'm kidding. A dark rye. Of course, a dark rye." And hands it to him, and then off he goes. We could probably do a whole segment about Phil.
The sandwiches.
What? And his sandwiches, yes. But we do have to carry on to probably, to me anyways, it's probably one of my more favorite characters of the Ultramarines, and that is Antaro Chronus. Now, Yuksen, as you know, we have normally talked about infantry heroes and commanders, but our next famous Ultramarine, he is a sergeant and the most gifted tank commander of the Ultramarines. His tactical abilities extend to almost any tank or armored vehicle in the chapter's armory. Few other armor commanders within the Adeptus Astartes can match his strategic genius and tactical acumen on the battlefield when it comes to armored warfare. In recognition of his superlative skills as the chapter's preeminent tank commander, he was awarded the ancient title of Spear of McCrog, the first since the time of the Great Crusade to bear that honor. Few other commanders can match the precision of his bombardments when at the helm of the Whirlwind or Vindicator. No living man can hope to be as coldly precise when unleashing the baleful weaponry of a mighty Predator tank. For a Space Marine to be assigned to serve in the armory is an honor indeed, and to do so is to be entrusted with command of the chapter's most valuable weapons of war. It is a transition that few battle brothers are able to make, for the crew must suppress their physical self and adopt the animantium behemoth's form as their own. An armored vehicle crewman must act as decisively and instinctively with the tank as he would with his own limbs. The tank's sensors and viewfinders become the commander's eyes and ears, its weapons, his fists and rage, and its armor, his skin. Chronus takes such skill one step further. He knows the capabilities and limits of every weapon system in every tank, and is cognizant of which of these mechanisms can be bypassed or jerry-rigged in the event of damage.
Sounds orcish.
Yes, ironically, it does, doesn't it? So it was that Chronus kept the Predator designated
Rage of Antonius.
battle-worthy during the closing actions of the Damnos incident, despite suffering several broadside hits from Necron gauze cannons. That the Rage survived at all was the cause of much wonderment from the Tech Marines who repaired the tank's extensive damage at the campaign's end. That Chronus not only managed to complete his mission of destroying the Necron phase generator, but also forced the Necron war cell into full retreat before the Rage of Antonius' systems went into shutdown was seen as nothing short of miraculous. Such a feat has often been imitated by other Ultramarine tank crews, but has never been bettered. Because of his actions on Damnos, Sergeant Chronus earned the title Spear of Macrog. Now, as the Spear, it is Chronus' duty to lead the chapter's armored assaults, and his privilege to choose the chariot of war in which he rides into battle. It is a unique position of authority within the Ultramarines, for it means that although Sergeant Chronus has command over some 50 brother Marines, he himself is not subject to the orders of a captain and answers in all things only to Rabute Gilliman and Marneus Calgar. During the invasion of Ultramar led by the Demon Prince Makar and Iron Warriors Warsmith Honzo in 857.999.M41, Chronus was deployed to the agri worlds of Quantarn, alongside the 5th and 6th companies of the Ultramarines. Faced with the apparent inexhaustible machine armies of the Dark Mechanicum warlord Vothier Tark, Chronus led his armored division and the tanks of the Ultramar Auxilia in a vital delaying action. Together they delayed the Chaos War Machines long enough for the city of Idrisia to be successfully fortified before the next offensive. Now, one of the interesting things about this command is the Spear of Macrog's formation itself. Now, it's interesting because, excuse me, I'm trying to work here. A little quiet, please.
What? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what he said.
What are you even doing?
Set up rat trap.
Yeah, we did.
The what?
Rat trap. You said you wanted us to build a rat trap, so we did.
Well, would you look at that, Zeckthar? It's large. Quite large. Did you imagine it would be that large, brother?
No, I honestly had forgotten about the mousetrap. But if you could please keep it down, lads. We're talking about Antaro Chronus.
What? You mean that blue biggie boy with the red cup that fights in a tank?
Not only is he lucky with wearing blue, but cop's red.
Sure,
He's fast.
don't work on them b-boys like us.
I don't know. Maybe you think he'd make it work.
You get like me say, don't work on b-boys.
Well, maybe you don't know that, you stupid.
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. How in all the realms do you know who I'm actually talking about?
Fought him on the big snowy planet. He killed me best squiggle. McGrubbins.
McGrubbins?
Yeah, we snakebites charged the tanky boys all sneaky from the side.
Sneaky from the side?
Yeah,
You mean you flanked them?
yeah. We didn't think they would see it coming,
but the beaky boys were waiting for us, blasting most of us into paste before we could get stuck in. The red cop lad shot poor McGrubbins out from under me. I be a tricky un, so he jumped off me squig before I got roasted, and landed on his tank. I stick the blue boy with the big Daka gun good.
Is that a heavy bolter?
Yeah, what he said.
Uh-huh.
That's when the red copper boy popped out of the tank and swiped at me with his toothy chopper.
Also known as a chainsword.
Yeah, what he said.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I lost me 3 fingers. And then he got me good in me shoulder. He then kicked me good and hard off the tank and then tried to run me over. But I rolled out of the way and put a sticky bomb on the tank.
Well, did it work?
What?
The sticky bomb, you goob!
Don't know. The boys were all dead, so I figured to get out of there.
Okay, well, that was interesting. Thanks for that, Snickrod. But what do you think of this tank, Commander Yuksen?
Well, when it comes to the tank and the Necron gauze cannons,
Yeah. How did he do that? How do you think he did that?
he's the master of all time. So he's
No.
able to freeze that area in time.
You don't think by any chance, anyways, it would do the simple fact that he could actually rewire the thing?
Except for they looked at it and they didn't know how it was able to keep going.
Well, maybe he didn't either. He's just like throw wires together. Hopefully it works. And it happened to. I don't know, man. That one's a maybe
It
that
sounds
one we could
more
actually
like
go ahead.
publicity than anything else.
I was about to say maybe that one is more legend than it is actual like history.
It's like what they mean is instead of a direct hit, it just seared off the side. Paint.
Yeah, or I don't know, it even missed, but he took several, like gauze weapon damage to his tank, but not from a gauze cannon. They just saw all the stuff flying at him anyways. They're just like, how's it still working? Which in and of itself, by the way, I mean, we already covered anyways, gauze weapons. Gauze
Right.
weapons are gnarly. So the fact that you could run any armor against the Necrons and have it work, that in and of itself is incredible. But you got any other thoughts on this guy?
Not really.
No? Fair enough. Well, on that note, that's all the time we have for today. Join us next week as we have our Q&A, along with our final thoughts on this storied chapter.
Indeed, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or send them to our website at www.
Wait a minute. What about our trap?
Right, I forgot about that. Very well, let's see what it does.
Right. Well, what we got here is the Mouse Mauler 3. Just flip the switch. And watch it go!
My books!
See? No more little furry things.
Yep. Along with all the books and scrolls on the west wall. Yuksen, never mind. I've got an idea.
My books!
Why don't you boys head over to the kitchen and get yourself something to eat? You must have been working hard on this project, making you both a wee bit peckish, right?
What?
Right. Hungry.
Oh yeah, good thinking. Alright, Snowrock. We goes for grub.
Yes, Just ask Jeeves for some food. Mention it is on the third shelf to the left with a dead mouse on it.
What?
The thing you were just killing, other than my books.
Right. Oh, yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
That's not wrong. What are we going to eat?
All right. Which way the kitchen getting? Oh, that way.
Left. No, left, you stupid.
Made the sign with the fork thingy on it.
As I always say, anyways, when you get to a fork, you follow it.
You think we'll ever be rid of them if they eat that poison?
Not a chance. On the other hand, it may at least incapacitate them for a while.
Well, we can hope, right?
Indeed, yet for our dear listeners, if you enjoy our vlogs, please like, follow, subscribe, comment, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments.
Indeed. And as always, until next time, this is Zeckthar
And Yuksen.
signing off.